What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So it looks like ex-USC quarterback and number one overall pick for the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, is going to start this weekend. I think they play Saturday versus the Bills, so that'd be a pretty good competition for him to go up against, at least for a couple plays or a quarter and a half. You just never know how long they're going to let rookies play nowadays, but it's good for him to get out there and show what he can somewhat do, get rid of, some of the mistakes and kinks, because he likes to take chances, so Chicago Bears fans are just going to have to deal with him throwing a couple more interceptions, especially since it's the NFL. He's going to want to throw and try to get certain passes that he marveled at USC in the college level, which he could get away with. But even watching that Hard Knocks premiere on Tuesday earlier this week on HBO, you even hear their coach tell him, yeah, that throw is not going to work in the NFL. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's not too much of a growing pains for him, but I think definitely within the next 2 or 3 years, he could be a dominant player in the league. So looking forward to that. Then yes, Team USA and Serbia. I know, talking with some family a couple weeks before this game, and they had kind of asked me like, who could be the team that's most challenging for USA, and I said Serbia, even though they had kind of beat them in the exhibition game and they were going into the group play at that time, so they had not played them yet, and they still USA ended up beating Serbia in that game as well. But I just felt Nikola Jokic, two-time MVP, and as I said even the day before here on YouTube, I was like, yeah, I'm still not that confident, and I still think they should win, but it's going to be a tough battle, and it was. They were down by double digits for most of this game until they made a little bit of a run to cut it to like 4 or 5 at the end of the third quarter, and then luckily Serbia finally stopped making freaking threes. It seemed like every time they were doubling Jokic, he would throw it off to one of his guys, and then they would knock down a three every single time, except during that fourth quarter. I think they went 0 for in that time, and USA stormed back and were able to get that victory against Serbia, 95-91. Steph Curry definitely stepped up, had 36 points, 9 threes, and 8 rebounds. LeBron James had 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists, so a triple-double. And yes, they advanced to the gold medal game against France, which is, I think, a little bit of an easier team. It's just going to be tough because it's the home team, and especially for the Olympics, so it's going to be tough to go up against that environment around, but it's just like a lot of younger guys. I know there was like a game that USA played against France. I want to say it was for like the FIBA stuff or something like that, the World's Games or something within the last couple of years, and that was a pretty good close game that USA ended up winning. But if it's the same, then that's cool too. But yeah, it was pretty tough watching and kind of feeling down most of that game. But yes, like I said, luckily they were able to come back. Too bad it's not against Germany, which I think there would have been a better team to go up against for the gold medal. But I think as long as they take it seriously, and for some reason Jason Tatum, the ex-Duke guy, hasn't been playing. He didn't play at all in this last game. I know Tyrese Halliburton hasn't really been playing, so that's kind of like a whatever. He didn't play again this last game, but for Tatum to not play, that's pretty crazy, especially when there was like a big lull and there was like no offensive scoring. And I know they kept trying to get Kevin Durant to come off the bench and score a lot, but he just wasn't doing it. So I was like, when are they going to put Tatum in? And yet they still won that close game against a very tough Serbian team. So we'll see what ends up happening with France, but as long as you collect the gold, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? And I forgot that Saturday that they're playing in a couple of days, or tomorrow as you're watching this video, it will be the dates 8, 10, 24, which obviously all those numbers involve around Kobe. 8 and 24 were numbers he wore while with the Lakers, and the number 10 he wore when he was with Team USA and played for the Olympics. So if they lose that game and it's a gold medal game, I'm definitely going to be pretty bummed out. But yeah, they better win. And there was this 3-star cornerback, defensive back, that showed off a bunch of his offers. I believe his name was Nick Reddish, and it looks like both USC and Duke, or a lot of those teams that have offered him. So I don't remember exactly what class he is in, but like I always say, it's always better when both of my teams are going after the same dude, so higher percentage of him ending up on that team. But I think one of those teams did lose a pretty big guy. Well, both teams actually, if you count today, but Duke did lose one of their commitments who was probably one of their higher ranked guys. He was a 4-star linebacker and Cam Smith, but it looks like he's going to be flipping to Penn State, which is a double whammy too, because now USC has to play him if he ends up sticking with Penn State for the near future, in the next couple of years once he does finally get some playing time. So, yeah, that sucks. I think there was that 4-star offensive lineman from the state of Utah, Aaron Dunn or Adam Dunn, I forget his name, but he was supposed to be maybe choosing USC earlier on Thursday, and he did not. He ended up choosing Utah, I believe, and staying home. So at least he didn't go to Oregon. He's going to Utah, which luckily USC doesn't have to play anymore because for some reason they are USC's kryptonite the past couple of seasons. But yeah, they ended up losing on that guy. And I know I talked about Nick Brooks the other day too, so hopefully that means, like I said, if they lose out on Dunn, then that means Nick Brooks is coming, another 4-star offensive lineman. So hoping for the best in those situations. And ex-USC wide receiver and now ex-UFL wide receiver Deontay Burnett looks like he signed a deal to go join the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll see how he ends up doing. I know Luis Perez, that quarterback, just signs with the Chargers. So a lot of those guys, it seems like it's being very beneficial for those guys if they can't really make it and get playing time in the NFL, then just go to that UFL and you'll get a shot at least, 1 year, or maybe be able to stick on for the whole entire year and work out another extension on that contract. So hoping for the best for the ex-USC wide receiver. And then an ex-Duke cornerback, defensive back, his name is Miles Jones. Looks like he was drafted in the UFL draft that happened during July. I totally never really knew about it, or it wasn't promoted that much for some reason. And of course, a lot of talented guys that I thought were going to get drafted this year ended up getting into that draft, which is pretty crazy. But like I said, it's a nice stepping stone for them to get more playing time. So it's going to be pretty cool, pretty, more aggressive and, put together a league, because there's going to be a lot of good players around. And so obviously the ex-Duke guy got drafted there as well. So congrats to him. And then in 2025, there's obviously every year, I think it's after a certain amount of years that you retire, that you're eligible now to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So not like the main guys that have their first time eligibility this season. It's like a Luke Kuechly, one of the top Carolina linebackers the past couple of years from Boston College, Eli Manning, the quarterback as well, Marshawn Lynch, Joe Staley, guys like that. But of course, ex-Chargers running back Darren Sproles and ex-USC/Green Bay defensive lineman Clay Matthews are both on that list as first-timers. And I don't think Darren Sproles, I forget if he was on that Philadelphia team when he finally left the Chargers, if he was on the team, one of those teams that won a title. That would be pretty cool and good for him to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame a lot sooner. But when it comes to Clay Matthews, he had a lot of times leading the league in sacks and did a bunch of stuff for that Green Bay Packers team. I know he finished his career with the Rams, but he was definitely a lot better player with the Packers, and that was obviously a surprising pick even for myself, because he was the one forgotten linebacker at USC with a Brian Cushing, Ray Maualuga, Keith Rivers, and yet he's the one that got selected first round. I think Brian Cushing may have went ahead of him in that draft, but still he became pretty much the best linebacker out of that class from USC. So yeah, congrats to those guys, and hopefully some of my ex-players on my teams end up getting in. And Fox apparently did a simulation on College Football 25, the college football game, of 50 different seasons, and it kind of put up the numbers of how many times certain schools ended up getting into the playoffs, and then another one about how many of those teams ended up winning the whole entire thing. And I believe USC was on there, in at least in the playoffs, 10 of those 50 times. Even Duke was able to make it once, which is pretty cool, but I don't think either of my teams ended up winning the championship, which is pretty crazy, especially because USC was able to at least get in there a fifth of the time. So I don't know. It's a simulation. It's not real life, so we'll see how the real season ends up going. But there's for some reason, there's not a lot of talk about women's basketball. I know there was a reporter named Talia Goodman who is working for On3 now, who was trying to get it out, but even for some reason her company doesn't promote her stuff too. But once they did show somebody pretty recently that is going to Duke, I believe. I was like, okay, now I got to look at her whole page and for like the last couple months to see if there's anybody related to Duke or USC on the women's basketball side coming out of high school. And there were a handful of women. The first one I believe that came up for her was a 2025 four-star small forward, Agate Macher, and she put Duke in her top 6. So she's a pretty talented player. I think she's like top 10 or top 15 overall in that class. So hopefully she'll come to Duke. But yeah, she has UConn and North Carolina on there, so a lot of other good teams. Another player that I did see on there was a 2025 top recruit, and Laura Somfy, and she put Duke in her Final Four pretty recently too, or Final Three, something like that. So they have a high chance to get another talented player. So hoping for the best there. Another player I saw on that list was a 2025 guard in Aubrey Shaw. She puts Duke as one of her finalists. I didn't put the number on there, so I forget exactly how many finalists she had, but Duke did make that list. But I think she probably had a bunch of teams on her list. But either way, Duke is still in the running. And another player, I believe from the 2026 class, she's a top recruit in there. Her name is Ashlyn Koppel. She believes she is visiting Duke later on this week or at some point this week, or maybe she has already, or I forget exactly when I looked up. I didn't remember the date on there, but she has pretty recently visited Duke either way. So hopefully they made a good impression on her in that 2026 class. And then also there was one USC player, I believe she's in that 2025 top recruit, and Grace Knox put USC in her Final Four. So at least USC's in the running for one of these players. Maybe they're kind of looking to do more of the transfer portal, which is what they ended up doing this last offseason. And I know at least a couple of those players can end up staying a bit longer. So maybe that's why they're not going as hard on this 2025 class, but we'll still see. And another quick update on some medal awards won by USA Olympians over the past couple of days, or at least a few days ago from the last week when I did talk about in that one video. So when it comes to the women's triple jump, they ended up winning silver that day with Jay Moore. Then swimming on the women's side, 800 meters, ended up getting gold with Katie Ledecky, and bronze with P. Madden. With the men's shooting, they got a gold with V. Hancock, and silver with C.L. Prince. Men's gymnastics, they did get a bronze with S. Niederroskik. And the women's vaults, they ended up getting gold with Simone Biles and a bronze with Jay Carey. Women's 3-on-3 basketball, they ended up getting a bronze, so congrats to them. Women's swimming, 4x100 meters, they got a gold. Men's swimming, 1500 meters, they got a gold with B. Fink. Men's golf solo got a gold with Scotty Scheffler. Women's road cycling got a gold with Kay Faulkner. Men's track and field 100 meters got a gold with Noah Lyles, and bronze with F. Curley. So yeah, kind of coming into what was like earlier on this week, finally with some of these things, I kind of realized once I was writing it down, I'm like, I'm going to be talking about Simone Biles and gymnastics stuff, and that's been done for quite a few days now, like nearly a week, and some of the other stuff, like just barely getting to the track and field, and that's already been happening earlier this week. So I kind of dropped the ball, especially because I probably didn't think I was going to have as many videos during the week, so that I could just add a couple of these things of what happened the past day before of the winnings. I probably should have just done that in my other videos leading up instead of just waiting for one video at the end of the week. But hopefully I will be able to do that video, because I don't think I'm going to have that much to talk about for a regular video, sports video tomorrow or Thursday or Friday as you're watching this. So I will most likely save that video for tomorrow night, updating on all the rest of the Olympic USA medals won up until that point. And I think there's maybe a week or so left, maybe another. It's like once the 11th or 12th, I forget exactly when the Olympics run into, but yeah, still a lot more to talk about. Hopefully that next video isn't too boring, but yeah, I probably should have just done it at the end of these videos. I feel kind of dumb, but hopefully we'll get all updated. And yes, like I said, there will most likely be a separate video of the USC Trojans winning Olympic medals, because a lot of times I forget which players there were, which athletes there was, because they're representing a bunch of different countries, and I think a couple of USA players ended up winning a couple of medals the past week or so. So, like I said, have some stuff to talk about then. Hopefully y'all enjoy it. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.